is back in the big leagues and over the moon.
Welcome to the landing strip with Nick Lynham and Mikey Garcia, presented by From Financial.
And go.
Welcome back to the landing strip, presented by From Financial. As the Winnipeg Jets drop the first game on the road in this series, Game 3 in Dallas, 5-2. And I gotta say, this is a frustrating one for a multitude of reasons that I'm looking forward to diving in here and seeing what you all saw as well. But first, Mikey, how you doing today, buddy?
Oh boy, I was already sick coming into this game, and then watching the joke of officiating going on, the frustrating game on the ice. It's not helping my condition, man. It's not helping me feel any better. I'll say that.
Yeah, we're gonna be talking about a lot today. Obviously, that call. I see Formally says hi in the chat. Nice to see you there on YouTube. A lot of the comments are about that. Do you want to get into that right off the hop before we start diving in?
Yeah, we should address it right off right from Jump Street.
So, what's your takeaway on that? Obviously, because I'm sitting here and I'm feeling exactly how Gordy Angus is over on YouTube.
So, yeah, if we're gonna talk about strictly the goal first itself, by every definition of the rule, for anybody with a set of eyes, he very clearly kicks the puck. He moves his foot in what would be called a kicking motion, a distinct kicking motion. The puck then travels from there towards the net. It takes a deflection and goes in. Rule 37.4, it's on my Twitter right now, right to the NHL's rule book. Not to a separate site, straight to the NHL's very own rule book. Rule 37.4. It does not matter if that puck takes a deflection. After a distinct kicking motion, that goal should not count. It's very clear. It's very deliberate. There's no, on the broadcast and on the panel afterwards, they're trying real hard to try to rationalize for the referees, which I understand. They're trying to tell that portion of the story of what's going on right now. But hearing them have to go, well, I don't know if his intent was to, kick a goal, if, this, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what he made a distinct kicking motion. It's in the rule book. It doesn't matter that it hit Hellebuyck's stick. Now, I'll say Elliot Friedman on the panel afterwards is saying that the referees are claiming it is not a distinct kicking motion for the goal. They're saying that is not what happened, and that even if it was, Hellebuyck didn't deflect the puck in, he propelled it in. So that's why it's, again, all of that is absolute garbage in my opinion. Anybody with a pair of eyes can clearly see a distinct kicking motion. The puck then deflects in, which, again, Rule 37.4, it's the NHL's rule. You can all go look online. It's there. That should be no goal. Any type of rationalization around that specific goal itself, I think, is absolutely bananas. Take the teams out of it, whatever jersey is on the ice. Any team should be pissed off if they're getting a goal like that.
Hey, you just dissected it properly. I don't need to add on to that. I'm going to shout out Gordy Angus on YouTube saying, can we all agree that the third goal shouldn't have counted, but the Jets not being able to win on a road game in the playoffs is insane.
Yes.
And so we all agree. It's a bullshit call.
Yep.
According to the letter of the law in the rule book. And that's going to be the dominating story out there. This cannot be the story of the game. The Winnipeg Jets cannot sit on the idea that they got screwed by the refs. They cannot sit on this because of how they respond. That, to me, is the story of these continued road woes, is that the Winnipeg Jets, as soon as there's a bit of adversity or something doesn't go their way on the road, everything crumbles. Everything falls apart dating back to last series, dating back multiple years now, where all of a sudden, it's not just that one goal. It becomes 2, 3, 4 in a hurry. And it's like, yeah, that goal is a piss off. Every single person listening to this show, every single Jets fan, hell, anybody watching around the league should be pissed off when the refs make a mistake that blatantly wrong. But you cannot sit on it. It looked like another night where it goes wrong and everything falls apart in a one-goal hockey game in a third period. It reminded me of Game 6 versus St. Louis. Connor Hellebuyck and this team, both factions of this, are not able to stop the bleeding on the road. And it kills you. It takes you completely out of the game. That goal, if this ends a 3-2 game, I look at this entirely different. But then we see them again completely collapse and just quit on the thing in round 2, game 3 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Why is this a thing on the road? Why is this a continued pattern on the road? Because of not winning game 1, that was winnable. And I thought this game, actually, given how Arneal saw game 1, I thought this game was a lot more shades of the game 1 performance as far as a lot of their issues within it. But I don't understand how a team so successful this year that has pushed back so strongly at home collapses like this in a quiet building.
Yeah.
Mike McIntyre was tweeting out during the play. One guy yelled that it's too quiet in here, and people were laughing.
Yeah, you could hear it.
I don't understand why they can't take a punch on the road and push back.
Yep. While we were all sitting around still, lamenting the absolutely awful call, as our friend over on YouTube, Julian says, Gordy Angus says, it certainly wasn't the ref's fault that Rantanen had a clear path down Main Street for the 4th goal. Right? So while we're all still focused on the absolute terrible fucking call, the Jets are collapsing still on the ice for goals 4 and then later on for 5. So it's not, yes, they got screwed on that one, 100%, no question, but that is not why they lost the game ultimately, in my opinion, even though that is technically the quote unquote game winning goal. And that'll do a lot of cover for kind of just a sloppy, not executing performance today. That's just kind of what it was. Like you said, a lot of what happened in game 1 is what you saw here again. And I don't know why we can't see them, rebound on the road like that. Why it's strictly just at home. Like you said, it's not that they were, in a building that was so hostile that was taking them out of it. This isn't St. Louis. This isn't, this wasn't one of those type of buildings, right? It was quiet. So you can, and there was quite a few Jets fans, I think, even there. I heard on the goal, you could hear cheering on the goal that the Jets scored. So I don't know. It's something they've really got to figure out, because you've lost home ice advantage already at this point. You have to get one of the wins in Dallas, and you've just lost one of those opportunities. So game 4 just became way more, again, you don't want to call it a must win, but we're back into, can't lose territory.
Can't lose.
Yeah, you've hit it again right away.
Exactly. And Julian puts it here, 8 straight road playoff losses. And this franchise has never won a playoff game when allowing the first goal. Not won a road playoff game when allowing the first goal. He corrects himself. And we know that this team could play with a lead. I just don't understand, when this team has battled back so much, why they fold on the road. It doesn't make sense to me in these moments. Obviously, a tough start to this game. It was basically a rewrite of the script from game 2, except in the reverse. Nino takes a really stupid penalty in what I thought was a really, really bad period from Nino Niederreiter in this one. Puts the Jets on their heels early. Josh Morrissey then takes a trip on Mikko Rantanen, who with time and space is going to cook. And we saw it on the game, the 4th goal. We saw it on him drawing that penalty on Morrissey. They go to the 5-on-3. They slightly kill it off, but the guy jumping back out of the box is still coming back in that play. Yeah. And at that point, Rantanen finds hints for that redirection play.
There you go.
That we saw St. Louis really use effectively against Winnipeg a lot. And then I felt like Dallas did control a lot of that period. The Jets get on the board after a 1 face-off, which the face-off discrepancy in this series has been pretty drastic at times in Dallas's favor. Mark Scheifele gets the win. Gabe Vilardi gets not one, but a second shot on net that Ottinger overcommits to the right side. Kyle Connor with the great wraparound to tie this game up. But then, and it's funny how this game works, right? I really thought the Jets had an opportunity, especially in the first 40 minutes of this game, where I felt Jake Ottinger was kind of swimming in his crease. We saw him overcommit to the left on that Cole Perfetti one-timer on power play 2 that Nino can't get a stick on in front. We saw him overcommit on the Vilardi shot that Kyle Connor ends up taking. And then we see him overcommit on Mark Scheifele when he finds Josh Morrissey on the power play, wide open cage. Don't know how Morrissey doesn't put that away. And all of a sudden, Dallas goes the other way. Gets a delayed penalty once again on Nino. And Thomas Harley, who we've talked a lot about, is the difference maker on their back end. Comes into the seam in the middle of the ice, gets a puck all alone, makes this a 2-1 hockey game with nobody around. And it was just frustrating because the opportunities were there if you were harder on sticks, if you're harder getting to the middle of the ice, when you do have a goalie that was, I didn't think, looking at his best. And we did see some of those slides continue in the second, and they just didn't have enough net pressure. Now they start off the second with Josh Morrissey making a great shake and bake play at the blue line to fake out, I think it was Colin Blackwell, and find Nino, who beats Ottinger. But despite where that ruling comes in, all over this game today was terrible puck management, especially from the top six of this group. Gordy had said, also, why can no star player on the Jets make the kind of play that Rantanen did on the fourth goal? And despite Kyle Connor getting on the board, I thought that top line really, really struggled with their puck touches. We saw so many bobbles that would go the other way. I think on that Marchment play, and we'll get to that discussion a little bit, that was Mark Scheifele showing some frustration on some of the plays that were going on. He goes and takes that run, gets away with it, and Marchment ends up whacking the official. I imagine we're going to see a suspension there. That's just one line you're never going to be allowed to cross in any sport.
Yep.
But they really struggled. And then that second line again. That second line of Nemestikov, Perfetti, Ehlers, the puck touches, the lack of connection, the turnovers. And it's funny, I thought the Lowry line struggled more than any line in the first period. I didn't want to see Nino and Appleton on that line moving out of that period. And that ended up being the line that I thought was the line you could most trust for the Winnipeg Jets. And in the road, when you need a big goal, when you need to score goals to keep up, Dallas got offense out of Robertson, Wyatt Johnson, Rantanen, Thomas Harley involved. All their big contributors were a part of that success. And I thought Winnipeg's biggest contributors were asleep at the wheel today. And it just can't happen in such a close game where you guys have the talent to take a step in a close game and take control of it and put your team on the board. And it just wasn't there at all for the Winnipeg Jets' best players.
Yeah, it wasn't there for their best players. It still feels like we're kind of, handcuffing ourselves by the player usage right now, especially in the middle six. It doesn't feel like it's working, especially on the road where Dallas gets the last change. They can really start to game plan a little bit more. It takes the Jets right out of it. It's real frustrating. Again, going back to because we've got some of the best listeners out here, and the way they put it is absolutely perfect every time. So again, going back to Gordy Angus, why not play well enough so a horrible call like the third goal doesn't matter that much in the end, right? Either you need to have that bounce back like we've talked about, have the ability to say, no, we're not going to let it, take us out, have that, as Jacob puts it, snowball effect, or be playing well enough up to that point where, you get a bad call against you. You get a bad bounce against you, but, you've built up that lead. You've put yourself in a good position. And the Jets didn't do either today. They didn't put themselves in position ahead of time, and they had no pushback once it happened. Less than no pushback. They allowed another goal instantly. So, everything that you could say was wrong today could have gone wrong did.
Yeah, as Al Camino says, same stuff we've been talking about all year when they struggle. And we do know what the Jets' downside game looks like. And their floor, when it falls out for them, is really, really hard to watch. And I kind of agree with Gordy Angus with the lines in a shake-up again. And Turd Ferguson with line matchups on the road killed us. Shake up the middle six for game 4. With Dallas's offensive guys coming through, and I gotta say, I think we're calling this series pretty well. Going into game 2, I was talking about some of the things I think we're gonna come out of Winnipeg. On the road, we see that Dallas transition game finally step up and take advantage with their star players. A lot of their offense came from bobbled pucks and poor execution from Winnipeg, that those guys go back on poor pinches on that last one, that Dallas's skill guys, if you give them time and space and odd man rushes, it's going to look at like that at times. It is going to be that kind of series. The Winnipeg Jets are the better team when they could stick to their structure. They could roll 3 lines out that are going to be competitive, and they can get to their game. But when they look like this, when they're not managing pucks, when they're not able to chase the game because they're not getting offense out of their middle 6, road games become even more tougher than the struggles we see out of this team already. And I really do think in this series, we talked about the D needing a tweak. I really do believe in this series. I know what the thought process is, and the Lowry line handled Rantanen really well at home. But guess what? Pete DeBoer is not going to let you get there. This team does need 3 lines that can contribute on the offensive end, on the road, especially in a series like this. And they got to find a tweak in there to make that happen.
Yeah, they do. I'm worried that we're not going to see it happen up front at all. We're going to see that same lineup, and on D, the changes we're going to see we might not want to see. You know what I'm saying? So I'm a little bit worried that if they do go to make any type of panic move, a change after this one, that it's going to be in a less helpful way than maybe what we'd be hoping for.
Okay, let's talk about it. Since we talked about the D changes and what we both wanted to see. If you're Scott O'Neill, you're sitting in his shoes right now. What is the forward group you want to see come Game 4?
It's interesting because we keep getting what we call the third line, right? The Adam Lowry. It's the shutdown line, the third line. Somehow they end up playing second line minutes most of the games, and the line that we're counting on for, quote unquote offense, Ehlers, Perfetti, and Nemestikov, they end up, slightly behind that, and we're sitting here wondering why they're not getting more opportunity, why aren't they scoring at the line that is playing. So it gets a little bit tough when you're trying to match up, especially against a star player, right? But honestly, at this point, I'd want to abandon that quote unquote shutdown line. And I'd like to see Lowry up with Ehlers and Perfetti. I think that's an easy place to kind of start without having to change everything around. In a perfect world, I'm probably breaking up the top line, and I'm really trying to stretch this out, especially on the road, because you don't have the matchup advantage, right? You don't have that ability of last change. So I want to try to create a bad matchup on every line. But that's, I think, a little too out there for what we've seen. So as a quick change, something that I'd like to see Scott Arniel do right away is just get Lowry up with Ehlers and Perfetti, get that line, the quote unquote second minutes, and let Nemestikov play defense with those other guys. I think that'd be a quick spot. And obviously, Mason Appleton doesn't need to be on that line whatsoever. Alex Iafallo should be playing up there, but that's a story for another day.
Okay, I'm gonna go somewhere a little different. I like where you're thinking, but I'm gonna go somewhere a little different actually, which is the beauty of this sometimes. So I would keep the top line together because I do think, in a perfect world, and I don't want to overreact just to this one game, I do think this is the type of matchup that line, when they are going, will take advantage of and have taken advantage of. I just didn't think it was their best game managing the puck today, which isn't necessarily something we always see creep up in their game when they struggle. It just was one of those afternoons everything felt off. What I'd be looking at doing is keeping the top group together. I'd be looking at Lowry, Iafallo, and Nick Ehlers, and I'd be looking at Cole Perfetti, Nino Niederreiter with Morgan Barron up the middle. I don't think it's worked as well with Vlad between those two. I don't think Nino's had his best showings either, but I think Morgan Barron, remember when we were heading into the deadline, I was really interested in Ryan McLeod because he would add the speed element up the middle of Perfetti and Nino.
Yep.
I'm kind of looking at Barron's emergence, and he lost a guy on that kick goal, so maybe it's a tough night to say it. But I think what he could bring to the middle of that group might help stretch some things out, and then you're looking at Vlad as someone you could trust on a fourth line today that didn't do a whole lot either.
Yep. That's
kind of where I would go with the top 9, I think.
I just want to say, when I suggested Morgan Barron should play above Vlad Nemestikov at the live show, everybody in the building told me to stop drinking for the evening. So I just want to say I'm going to put a check on Michael's side on that one there, guys. That's a one for me.
As you should. I just think stylistically it makes more sense for Nino and Perf aren't the most fleet of foot. I think Cole Perfetti's had a real tough series too, to be quite frank. So that's what I'd be looking to do to see if you can get something going down the lineup. I imagine Dallas is going to lose some depth with Mason Marchment going to be sitting out. maybe there's no perfect answers, and you might be right that forcing the depth through a split at the top might be the way. I'm looking at something a little different there.
Yeah, I like it.
You know what else I'm hoping to see something different from?
What's that?
How about this stat? Our boy, Connor Hellebuyck. Most consecutive road playoff games with 4+ goals against. He is currently second all time with 8 straight, only behind Greg Millen. And that's a record I don't want him touching when we get into Dallas
he's
on
just
Tuesday.
on the hunt. He's on the hunt for records right now. He wants them all. It's like Farb getting the interception record. Sometimes. Yeah, no, it's been a real rough playoff run for Hellebuyck here. We need more of vintage Hellebuyck, not this version coming into the next game.
Especially on the road, and it's one of those things like
he has to steal one. He needs to steal one. That's played in simple. At a certain point, he has to be better than everybody else in a game that they don't deserve to win, and he needs to steal it.
Especially on the road right now, where this team does go into a lull as soon as they get punched in the face late in a hockey game.
Yep.
They need him to stop the bleeding if the team's not going to in front of him either.
Yep.
You know where else needs to stop the bleeding? The power play, man. You cannot go 1 for 12 in a series
brutal
against a team that can take advantage of you offensively. Like, I do still firmly, despite how today went, believe that the Winnipeg Jets are the better 5-on-5 team, and we want this to be as little of a specialty teams game as possible. But you cannot go 2 offers and 1 for 12 cumulatively in the second round of the playoffs and expect to win a 7-game series. It didn't even look good today. Like, I'm watching that power play, and what am I supposed to take away from it other than, holy shit, guys, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, it's frustrating that for the first time in recorded memory, you're getting a million fucking power play opportunities in a playoff run. The Jets are coming in with the best power play for the vast majority of the season statistically, and then you get all of these opportunities and you score one. And you're losing games, by 1 or 2 goals very late. Sometimes there's an empty net or whatever, but like you're in these games, you're close in them. And a power play goal will make a huge difference so many of these times, and you're getting 3-4 opportunities every fucking game. It's unacceptable for a group that's been so good. And you've got everybody back right now. Your top unit is together. It's not like you've got the excuse of, guys aren't there. They've got to figure it out again. They've got to get this working because that was such a big key to their success. And if you take that away, all of a sudden, that's right. How does that work?
And that's the thing. That's the thing, right? We talked a lot going into the deadline, and I see people are bringing up the lack of 2C. It's a convo I'm going to leave for another day. Everyone knows my take on it and how fired up I was about it. I can only beat that horse dead. And we're still it's a 2-1 hockey series in Game 3. We'll talk about that after the series, depending on how it goes. But we had talked about how for long stretches this year, without that power play, the 5-on-5 offense wasn't enough, and that power play really boosted them to get to this President's Trophy, to get to this opportunity, to get to this spot. And for it to be non-existent in their biggest round of the year is frustrating, especially when you look at the talent there. JMO's back. They have no excuses not to be running, and I think Blake Wheeler did a pretty good job noticing some of the tweaks that they're trying to get. But even on the one he showed in the first intermission, Ehlers would have had to send that pass through 3 guys for a wide open Josh Morrissey. Yep. Like he's totally right on that's what they're looking to get to. It's still not the ideal player setup that I'd be looking to because it's still a high risk type of spot for Nick Ehlers to send that through 3 guys. And it could be the tipping point. If the Jets are able to capitalize on a power play, we might not be talking about that kick goal.
Yep.
We might not be talking about a collapse. We might not be talking about all of this. But the power play and their biggest guns not showing up on it is snowballing into the rest of this. And you're just not. No matter what happens the rest of the series, without that power play clicking, you will just not you will not win this series.
Yeah.
You will not win the series without the power play starting to contribute.
Yeah. During the course of the year, the Jets would maybe take a little bit of heat on. Well, yeah, they're good, but it's the power play really carrying them, and the 5-on-5's not. And once the playoffs come around, the whistles go away, so that's gonna be, that's no help to them. And my argument kind of always was, well, you know what? It was part of their game. It's what helped them be successful. Yeah, there'll be less opportunities, but they've been so good at it that they should still capitalize even on those fewer opportunities. I still had a hope that they'd be able to use that as part of their tool bag, because why not? It still counts, right? We kind of discount power play time, I think, sometimes when we're looking at, just the 5-on-5 stuff, and for good reason. You play the vast majority of the game at 5-on-5, but it's still a part of the game. It is still going to help get you goals. And the Jets were so good that I thought that would be, still present here in the playoffs. It just, and they're getting those opportunities. That's the most frustrating part, is they are finally getting a crap load of these chances. And this could be where they could be dominating over the Stars if they're putting in, the 33% chance that they were cruising at for a while. So it's real tough, man. It's tough.
As Gordy says, if the power play is only a tiny bit better, we probably win game one, which I totally agree with. Agreed. If they get contribution from
just
the power
one
play
goal
in game
one out of the 4. That's a totally different game. We go to overtime and who knows what happens, right?
And maybe it snowballs into positive momentum too. Yep. And if it's better today, we at least have a chance today. It is brutal. It's probably their biggest, outside the collapses and outside they get punched and all of a sudden the game's over. The power play has to be the biggest concern right now. It's too stagnant, as Julian points out.
Yep.
Before we move into the From Financial Faceoff, though, here as we hit the halfway point, I want to clean up some stuff over on YouTube, over some of the combos we have had. Lucas Trapp asked about the kicking goal. We started the show with it, so if you want to take a listen to where we went with that, we started it right off the hop. Don Dawson joins in, and right after I just finished saying Cole Perfetti hasn't really been a part of this series, Don Dawson had joined in and said, I'm joining late. Can someone get a hold of a milk carton people and get Perfetti's picture on their MIA, which is something I agree with right now after having such a consistent and steady round one. He has not been the same player. But I do want to go back as part of this show. And part of what we pride this show on is going back and forth with the audience, sharing other perspectives, and having those discussions outright here. I see Formerly, who I know is a big Apples guy, wanted to defend Appleton and wants to hear more on why we believe the 22 versus 9 thing. So Formerly had said, why is 22 versus 9 a story for another day? I disagree. 22 is everything he's asked to be. No argument that 9 can play anywhere, but Apples hate. Explain why. So I'll start off with my own thoughts here, Mikey. I'll let you kind of get yours together. The reality of the Winnipeg Jets lineup is it's a deep roster with quality NHL players, but they need everyone going at their best, especially as we get deeper and deeper into this playoff run, to compete with some of the top-level guys on the other team, like a Rantanen, who has now won 2 games for the Dallas Stars. The Winnipeg Jets don't have stars that are doing that. Let's just be honest about it. And the reality of Mason Appleton, for one, he is not even close to being a top 9 NHL forward on any team in the league, especially this one. But when you watch his game, and I'll name a few plays that stand out today, the reality is the offense dies on his stick. Absolutely dies on his stick. Once Mason Appleton gets it in the offensive blue line, you might as well start preparing yourself and seeing what Dallas is going to send the other way, because that's where it's going. If it's on Appleton's stick, guess what? It's going to be a Dallas possession the other way. In his own zone, he is struggling in this round specifically on his half wall, which is supposed to be what he's good at. He's supposed to be this reliable cookie cutter player, and he's not doing that aspect well. On the offensive side, there's one play, he gets a great bounce off the wall, and because he struggles to get moving his feet, he turns a partial break into just a soft little play at the net. On that 2-on-1 with Lowry, instead of cutting the corner and starting to drive for a 2-on-1, he takes the long way, has the defender coming back. He's able to hit Josh Morrissey, who beats 2 people up, but he just kills the offensive momentum. Shift over shift over shift over shift for the Winnipeg Jets, and I'm tired of watching it, to be quite frank. You know what we're gonna find out? We're gonna find out this summer which NHL management groups watch film versus what guys look at hockey DB, because he is having one of the worst near a point per game playoff performances I've ever seen a player put up. And someone's gonna look at those numbers and they're gonna write him a big fat check, and you're gonna hate that contract every single minute of it for the next 3, 4, 5 years. He is not that level of player. He's a fourth line, basic hockey player that does nothing to positively impact a game in the other direction for the Winnipeg Jets. He does not drive a line. He is not the Adam Lowry whisperer that Alex Iafallo has been. And it's enough is enough. That's where I stand on it. So that's my take. I'll leave it to you, Mikey.
Yeah, you hit on essentially all the kind of things that I would really touch on, right? It's just indicative of, I think, a bigger issue with how the lineup is constructed, right? When you have a guy that, by most accounts, the eye test, by all analytics, does not work as well as a player below him, a player who, when there are injuries above, is the one that's called upon to move up to those spots, but then is still, again, later not good enough to unseat a guy above him. It just doesn't make any sense, right? You can watch him with your eyes and you can see that it just doesn't work. You can look at the stats. It's very clear that he's not a quote unquote third line player on a championship caliber team. Whereas you have a guy who's, again, playing less minutes below him, who we've seen do it. We've seen play as a second line player, can fill in nicely, it's frustrating, and it's indicative, I think, of a bigger problem overall with how the lineup is constructed.
And he wasn't even their biggest problem today.
No,
he
God,
wasn't
no.
even their biggest problem.
Absolutely
Nick Healer's, Cole Perfetti, the top line,
yes,
the top
the
six
Stars
has
were the
to wear
problem
a game
today.
like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, the top six has to wear a game like today because it was absolutely pathetic.
And I just want to say as well, the initial comment
units.
that started the conversation was the one I made about when we were talking about an ideal lineup, right? I said I would swap AI onto that line as well. Again, we were talking about a perfect, what my idea of the Jets' best version is. To me, that is absolutely an easy swap to make, but that's, we obviously, I know that's not going to be happening. I'm not saying that Appleton was the problem today and he needs to be demoted or whatever. It's just that, yeah, in a perfect world, I'd rather, Iafallo get those minutes.
With the season on the line in Game 7 in Period 3, we saw it finally happen. Scott O'Neill clearly knows.
Yep.
Now it's time to pull that out. You cannot afford to go 3-1 down versus Dallas. You got to make some tweaks to the offense because today was a night, and it frustrates me. Watching Jake Ottinger, he was beatable tonight. If you can get around the net and if you can get him moving. He was having trouble managing his angles today, and the Jets just did not create enough. Top to bottom. We're talking about Appleton being the one that's going to get demoted if we had our ideal lineup, but top to bottom, the Jets were not good enough offensively to take advantage of a night that Jake Ottinger felt off, and that is frustrating. And that is on the Winnipeg Jets' best players.
Yeah. You know what? Again, I love how our listeners put it. Kevin K over on YouTube. I think 22's shortcomings would be easier to accept if he was playing less minutes. He contributes the same amount as lesser players with much more opportunity. And that's really what it comes down to, right? It's you can accept those shortcomings, you can accept the slightly limited offensive skill set if he's not getting opportunities above guys who do have that in their game and are just as good defensively. Honestly, if not better, I think the Apples defensive thing gets a little overblown. He's not some Selke nominee type player. Like, this is a regular grinder, fourth line type of guy. Like you said, he's not the Adam Lowry whisperer. Like, he doesn't do anything exceptionally special. So it just, I think we need to get away from the narrative that, yeah, he's some defensive specialist. He's a regular guy. We've got a shitload of them. We talk about how, quote unquote, deep the Jets are. They've got a million guys like him. And God damn it, Jets-centric, you got to my point before I could. You nailed it. He's Logan Appleton. It's the same argument we make with Logan Stanley. It's that
not as bad.
Well, no, not as bad. It's just the argument, right? He's getting opportunities above guys we think would be a better fit in that spot. So yeah, it is what it is. It's not that it was not his fault today, like we said. Today's is on the Stars. Like, it is on the offensive guys.
Has to be. I did think he's had, and I know I'm his biggest critic, but I think he's had a great playoff, and we've talked about it. I thought this was the Neil Pionk that scares me today.
Yep.
Him and Sandberg did have their struggles, and I saw more of that chaos. It felt like the Stars were putting a lot of pucks in his corner, and to the Stars' credit, we're talking about a chess match, right? We're talking about adjustments. To the Stars' credit, I thought they did a much better job getting in quick on the forecheck. We know that this team isn't necessarily as gifted with high-end puck movers as you'd want, and it's Dallas's big problem too. if there's any takeaway from this series, it should be how important those puck movers really are come playoff time, rather than those bruisers and those bangers. Because I think you're seeing both teams have very real issues there. But to the Stars' credit, I thought they did a much better job forcing the Jets to try and make plays. And on a night where the puck management and their ability to make crisp passes wasn't there, that extra boost from them on the forecheck just propelled into more of those problems for Winnipeg. And we know that is an area that if teams could kind of catch them there, they will struggle. So, shout out to the Stars coaching staff and the players for buying in on a plan that does work against this team.
Yep, absolutely.
Let's go into the From Financial Faceoff, where we want to know what you think was the difference in this one, what tipped the scales, what was missing, and what is going to need to change going into Game 4 of the Winnipeg Jets versus Dallas Stars in Dallas Tuesday night.
Let's hit it. Right on.
And a couple key points just to wrap up those conversations. I see Brian just jumped in. Thanks for tuning in, bud. We just finished about like 5 to 10 minutes going back and forth on that convo. And Mike Friesen sums it up nicely in a way that Julian is kind of talking about over on YouTube as well, saying the biggest problem with Mason Appleton is that Chevy didn't upgrade him, but we all knew that. And that's a fair takeaway. That's a fair takeaway. But let's move in to the From Financial difference. What do you think today, Mikey? What is the From Financial face-off for you?
This was a tough one again because there's a bunch of things that I think you can kind of start to point to. But I'm going to stay on my theme for the week, and I'm going to harp it again. Special teams, special teams, special teams. The way that it is, and we kind of have to accept it at this point, is that the Jets 5-on-5 game is incredibly streaky. It is very dependent both on the team that they're playing and the location. Like, it is just they need things. We've talked about it all year. They need things to go right for it to work. They don't have a quote unquote plan B most of the time, except that special teams kind of became that trump card. It became the piece that would get them through those times where the 5-on-5 wasn't working. And again, in the playoffs where you finally get these chances, you can't be passing them up each time with a static power play that's standing around, that's staring at each other, looking for the absolute perfect pass, trying to get a puck through 4 or 5 guys at a time. It got away from what was getting them success early on. It would absolutely have changed the outlook of at least a couple of these games. So again, I'm going to keep harping on it until it gets better. The beatings will continue until morale improves. So, it's the special teams From Financial face-off for me.
I like where Gilbert Marion went for the From Financial face-off segment with Morrissey missing the open net. Dallas came down and scored shortly after, and talk about one of those momentum shifts potentially entering the second period up 2-1 versus down 2-1. I like that as a From Financial difference. Kevin Kay saying the difference in this one, missed opportunities in all facets or all areas of the game. Formerly is the From Financial being the call on the kick goal absolutely changed the game. And we saw the Jets, as soon as that ruling came down, they quit on this game. They buckled again, folded like a cheap tent. So that definitely had its impact. I like both of those singular plays.
Agreed.
From Formerly and Gilbert being momentum shifters in this one. In either's we trust From Financial looking towards next game. Move up Barron to the second line. Move Vlad and Apples to the fourth. Move AI up to the third. Bring Lowry to the down to the third. Fans wear propeller hats in Game 5.
I'm in.
My From Financial face-off in this one is just how different the Winnipeg Jets' entire game looks on the road versus home, and I can't put my finger as to why. At the end of the day, you're playing a 60-minute hockey game. You're playing in a barn that was quiet. You're playing in the second round of the playoffs, and the inability to stop the bleeding, which this team has done so well at over the 82-game regular season, the first round at home, Game 2 at home, and they just can't find that level once they get a big punch landed on them on the road, and it's killing them. It's killing them.
Yep.
I still feel good about them splitting. This team's answered pretty well all year.
Yep.
Not writing this off yet. It's always, I'll say this, it's hard for me to get too down in this series because it was always the Jets in 7. This was always going to be a tough, lengthy series. But it's a can't-lose game 3, and they have to get out of their own head or whatever is holding them back, that as soon as they get landed a big punch in the second half of a game on the road, everything falls apart. And I don't know what the answer is there. I can't even provide a suggestion on what the answer is there because I don't get it. I don't get it after watching. We've watched this team for, 93 games, 92 games? And it's only been on the playoffs in the road. I don't understand it.
Yeah, it's funny. So, like, we talk like, yeah, they don't know how to respond when things aren't going well. But it's only on the road that seems to be the problem. We watched it in Game 7. Nothing was going right for the Jets. Absolutely fucking nothing. And they found a way to respond. They found a way to come together, to get fired up, to make this work. So we need to know what that is. Why on the road is it so much more of a daunting thing? Because they know they can do it. They have that ability. We've seen it with our eyes just a few days ago. It's all mental right now. They've got to work through those demons, whatever they are.
And some comments on that formally suggests it's the coaching chess match and says, don't get me wrong, Arneal is worthy, but that is in play here. And that kind of plays into why we want to see him make some adjustments in that top 9 to make that chess match on the ice more difficult on the opposing coach who gets to set the lineup and set the matchups on the road.
Yep.
Julian also says from financial faceoff being, how about the Jets find a way to win when they're made uncomfortable and everything isn't going their way, which I think plays into this, right? You got to fight through that. It's not going to be pretty. It's not always going to be perfect.
You're going to get booed sometimes.
You're going to get booed sometimes. There's going to be big calls that go against you. You have to, in this sport, at this time of year, be able to find that gear to do it again. Turd Ferguson also says from financial faceoff being to be mentally tougher when you get punched on the mouth on the road. Jacob Von Lowe points out faceoffs and stopping the flip passes from Dallas. And it is clear that Dallas feels like that's their only way to counterattack the Winnipeg Jets without Miro Heiskanen. Harley is the only one that could really jump in and make plays. And today was a game that those flip passes really put the Jets on their heels, and there was odd man rushes going the other way.
Yep, 100%.
After doing an excellent job of setting it up and making Pete DeBoer freak out after the game.
Lose his mind. I like where Mike Friesen goes over on Twitch. Sorry to go here again, but Ehlers needs to play with Scheifele. Ehlers is playing with a bunch of facilitators. Get him with our best finisher. And I agree. He needs to be playing with a better goal scorer right now. That's something that we're desperately missing.
He also does need to be better, so I do want to point that out. But
oh yeah, absolutely.
Everyone knows my ideal situation is Ehlers, Scheifele, Velarde, Connor, Lowry, Iafallo. So that's where I would go. I think the Jets can win a cup like that, but we'll leave that alone here. Here's one from Ehlers. In Ehlers We Trust, and I wanted to get your takeaways on this. In Ehlers We Trust says, from financial faceoff, Wheeler sucks as an Sportsnet panelist. What did you think of Blake Wheeler on the panel today?
So earlier today, when I realized that Blake Wheeler was going to be on the panel, I said to you all that this was the you can guarantee the Jets were going to lose the game now because of the Blake Wheeler curse. And this is exactly what happened. That is exactly what happened today. Wheeler's on our screen, and the Jets played like a playoff game that he would have been in. So, no, I was not happy to see Wheeler again on my screen. Did not enjoy it. He can go somewhere else. I'm good with that.
Honestly, I didn't think he was that bad. I really didn't. I thought he was kind of fresh with it. For his first attempt at it, I really did not think he was that bad at it. I want to say that, and I'm kind of surprised. You know, I'll say this. I'm kind of surprised. I know. This market tends to like feel slighted when there's not positive Jets coverage. And I thought it was very clear who Wheeler's allegiance was to. So I'm a little surprised by the negative take with him.
Yep.
And I gotta say, I did agree with him that the Ben call was pretty soft.
Oh yeah, no, I agree with that. That's fine. Yeah, absolutely.
Turd says he wasn't great, but his first go at it. Yeah, like it was his first shot at it. I actually expected much worse with how he used to handle the media. I actually thought he embraced it a lot better than I would have expected.
He
and
agreed
I
with
think
he agreed with the propelled. The puck was propelled into the goal take. So screw him there as well.
I'm out now.
Yeah, I forgot.
I'm out
I
on
saw
wheels
that
now.
as on the panel as well. He did. He's like, yeah, Hellebuyck, he really propelled it in. So screw off.
I just thought he was not bad. I thought he did better than I expected on the panel, to be honest. A couple more from financials. Gordy Angus says the power play in Helly has to seal a game, not original, but it's the truth. There's not enough time left in my life to describe how much I despise Wheeler as a player. Wasn't bad as a commentator. And
Yes,
I agree with that on Jordy as well.
There we go.
So that's a fair takeaway.
Nailed it. That's exactly how I feel, honestly.
Also, shout out Formerly, who's going back and forth. And this is what we love about this show is we get to have those combos. Does say, just so it is said proverbially out loud, this is my favorite post-game show. Thanks to both of you in the chat group. And thank you for always being here. Formerly, appreciate your insight. But there's some more breaking news coming out of this game. I had wanted to get to it. I see Choices has now put it in our chat.
Yep.
From Frege, League has discussed the incident at the end of the second period between Mason Marchment and referee Graham Skilleter. It is on-ice officials' call to decide if that qualifies as an abuse of officials violation. The answer was no, so no further action. Mikey, your thoughts?
That is awesome. Abusive. So, oh man, I'm of two minds on the whole thing a little bit. Mainly, so I hate it in terms of you can't be in any moment of frustration. You can't be getting in contact with a referee. I don't care if it's a light tap. I don't care if it's a light bump. I don't care if you're trying to get his attention, whatever it is. If it's in a moment of frustration, which we all clearly watched that, play out, you cannot make contact with the official. That should be real plain and real simple. The fact that they're going now that, we're leaving it up to the referee to decide if that's, I want to take a look at the actual rule to see if that's how it's normally laid out, because generally that's not how the league does things with discipline. It's not up to the official if something gets reviewed afterwards or not. And if we're starting down a road of, things are only penalties in the moment and not looking back, we've seen that constantly where things get missed on the ice and then the league takes supplemental discipline afterwards because you're trying to get dangerous type of things out of the game. And yeah, was this the reason I said I may, quote unquote, two minds, whatever, a little bit. Yeah, was this him slashing or hacking at the ref? No. Was he whacking at him to physically hurt him? No, absolutely not. But there's no way to stop that from moving slightly more and slightly more and slightly more as we go on. And you cannot have a player in frustration go out there and make contact with the referee. It's just bad in my opinion. I think it's a bad call on the ice. I think it's a bad call now by the league. That's two tonight in a row of just really poor calls.
Yeah, and the others we trust makes me laugh with he made propeller contact with the official. This is an interesting one for me. I actually kind of agreed with Kevin Bieksa at the intermission when I first saw it all and how it played out, that I actually respected the ref not like going nuts. Like normally refs have a bit of an ego.
Yep.
Because it was a little love tap on the shin pad. But the league absolutely has to step in there. I agree with you on that, where you're going down a really slippery slope, as Brian puts it over on Twitch, when you start to pick and choose what constitutes abusive official in any sports league, in any level. Any sort of contact ends up wearing a suspension. I know I wore one on a play that I was very angry, but I didn't mean to take a swing at the official. I was taking a swing at the glass, and my stick came back off the glass and clipped the official, and I wore a suspension from that because the referees have to be off limits. And you're doing it at a time when all the hockey world's eyes are actually on the sport. And you're making that judgment call. I think that is a real Bush League step And kind of on what you're talking about, when you allow the refs to make the final interpretation on something like that,
So
how do you trust the refs to make the final interpretation when they made the wrong interpretation on a goal within that same game
right, like
of their own rule book? You know what I mean?
it's So I've got the rule pulled up from the NHL rule book. Again, Rule 40. It's physical abuse of officials. It's super clear. It's any player who makes deliberately applies physical force in any manner against an official, attempts to injure an official, physically demeans or deliberately applies physical force. So any type of touch, anything force, as you shall be. Yeah, like there's nowhere in there that it says unless the referee thinks it's fine. Like the only extra clause at the end, the referee shall report to the commissioner any failure of protection observed to him within the particles. So they're supposed to tell the league if they're not being, if this isn't being applied. It's not supposed to be like, nah, it's fine, guys, don't worry about it. He made deliberate force towards an official. I don't know, man. This is a weird fucking day in terms of reading their own rules properly.
Sills, all in caps, I like the energy. F the NHL and the absolute debauchery we witnessed today. Not only do they get a goal wrong, they're now not going to suspend a player who actually physically made force with an official, which is insane. As Mike says, that is not how you run a league.
No.
Gordy Angus says, I'm not an NHL hates the Jets conspiracy theorist, but if the Jets player does that, the refs there are going to be suspended multiple games. In the NBA, players are given techs or thrown out for breathing too heavy in the ref's direction.
We have that rule too, actually, in the NHL. If you go up just one rule, Rule 39, you cannot make a gesture towards the officials in an angry manner. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't matter that it wasn't hard or that it wasn't like a slash to like take out his knees. He was angry and he made physical contact with the ref. That's bullshit, man.
Since T. Will is back and going on this stupid ramble that he's like to do all year, I'm gonna ask T. Will, is this your first year watching the Jets? I just need clarification here, because if it's your first year watching Jets hockey, I understand why you're so stuck on this idea and why you want to get it wrong so often. So just let me know. Just let me know in the chat if this is your first year around Winnipeg Jets hockey, because if so, I totally get why you're so off on this one when it comes to the Hellebuyck. Is a system goalie bullshit that continues to be really stupid, honestly. So just let me know, T-Will. Let me know, and I'll kind of fill you in on the past you missed out on in the last 5-6 years.
Oh, boy.
In Ehlers We Trust says that was a non-consensual touch. That's the kind of stuff you get some 911 calls on. Sil also points out the way BX pointed out that the Vermette situation, how it's not the exact same thing but similar, but we're getting nothing. I guess players can just abuse officials and get away with it, man. It is insane to me that there's going to be nothing further on this. Like, it sets such a bad precedent. It opens Pandora's box in such a way that what if Mark Scheifele gets pissed off and decides to do the same thing next game? And maybe it's a little bit harder. Guess what? You just set the precedent of this series.
I'm still just so baffled. It is so clear as day written in the fucking rule book. Any manner, any physical force shall receive a game misconduct. In addition, disciplinary penalties shall apply. I don't know, man. I'm so blown away at the absolute lack of ability to referee and control their own game. I'm blown away.
That is bad. As Harrison put it, this is bar none the worst managed game of the playoffs so far.
Yeah.
And that's something we're going to have to fight through. Hey, puck don't lie. Yep. It's on the Winnipeg Jets to answer the bell in Game 4 and go and take one on the road. We saw them dominate the Dallas Stars in Game 2. We need that level of performance, not the level 1 and 3. You're not going to get help from the league. You're not going to get help from the refs. It's time to assert the team and the effort that we saw get this team a President's Trophy this year. You're not going to get help? That's okay. It's time to push through it. We can't let this be the focal point is kind of where I'm at here.
Yes. It's
frustrating. It's frustrating. Don't get me wrong. It's bullshit.
Yep.
But it is now on the Winnipeg Jets to respond to this.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, great teams fight through adversity. Sometimes you've got to eat that shit sandwich to get all the way through. It just, life is full of duality, right? Two things can be true at the same time. The Jets got fucked on two absolutely just bullshit things, and they sucked ass. Like it was both today. They've got to be better.
T-Will claps back with Nick. I'd love for you to educate me on it. What year was it again that Helly dragged this team past around? Must have missed it. I guess you weren't around for the Edmonton Oilers sweep where, despite how everyone wants to remember that series, Connor Hellebuyck in 4 games stopped over 9 goals saved above expected against the 2 best players in the league and was the biggest reason the Winnipeg Jets swept. Get out of here with the bullshit. Connor Hellebuyck was consistently dragging around a systemless corpse under Paul Maurice to the fucking playoffs. Connor Hellebuyck has consistently carried a team that's lacked the appropriate Stanley Cup level talent on the roster to playoff rounds that they probably shouldn't even have gone to. Spare me this bullshit because you're mad about how he's playing this year in the playoffs. It is just not a reality in Connor Hellebuyck's career. Yeah, the system finally got better. After people in this market sucked Paul Maurice off for years, despite any kind of criticism on the guy in his system, guess what? Players have told me that Paul Maurice, great communicator, no system whatsoever. Yep. And Connor Hellebuyck was winning Vezinas and bringing that team to playoffs. And now you're going to turn because the system's finally good. It elevates everybody, including his stature within the league. And now he's a system goaltender. It is the dumbest argument from a chatter I've seen on our show all year. Connor Hellebuyck has to be better in these playoffs, bar none.
Yes.
Bar none, especially on the road. But this idea he's a system player, it couldn't be more naive. As far as, unless you just started watching the Jets this year, then I understand it. I get it. If you want to tell us that, go ahead. But it tells me you haven't watched anything over the last 6 or 7 years.
Yeah, the Vezina.
Anything over the last 6 or 7 years.
The Vezina trophy in the cabinet after, again, dragging around a corpse of a team that was either had no system whatsoever under Paul Maurice or trying to figure one out under Bones we've seen an absolutely historic play from him over the course of the season. But he's got some mental things that he's got to work through, and he's got to be fucking better and steal a game for us. All those things are true, but to say he's a system goalie is bananas. Come on now.
It is ridiculous. Mike says, yeah, the Jets should probably go score more than 2 goals, and also says, I'm sad that Twitch chat can't get Nick fired up. T-Will found my soft spot. I mean, we'll probably be battling on this one as long as he wants it to happen. But Gordy says the same thing as me. Helly won us a series in 2021. Our whole strategy at that point was to let Helly stop everything and score 1 goal. Baby Billy wants to give Maurice some credit. He won a cup with no system. Impressive. And yeah, I guess we could give a guy credit for walking away from the problems he built to go to the number 1 team in the NHL. I mean, It's kind of cowardly. Kind of says a lot about Paul Maurice's ego and how he's operated in this league that it took him that long. But hey, good on him. He keeps wanting to tie himself to this stuff, and he had to walk away from it. So I got no love for that guy personally. Nope. But let's move into the 3 stars on the way out here. And see who the chat has for 3 stars.
All right, I'll hit it. Right on.
Formally, trust me, I know T-Will. We've had some drinks together. Normally, he's asking for my help when he's going at it with Sean Reynolds at some of those KNR parties, but now he wants to get me fired up. Much love to him as well. That's what this show's all about. We'll continue to have this debate, and I'll continue to bring the fire because I couldn't buy it. I cannot wrap my head around that argument at all. But, Mikey, who do you want to give the 3 stars to on this night?
This was a tough one because I did not have a good time trying to find Jets to give out some love to in this one, and I don't like giving out stars to the opposing team. So I
just be a man and do it.
I was going back and forth on it. For my stars tonight, though, I think I'm gonna go. You go first on this one. Take this one first.
Okay, so I'm going to go 3 stars, and Mike and Turd beating me to it, as well as in Ehlers We Trust. Number 3 star, the reffing crew on this one, getting a call egregiously wrong and then deciding getting slashed is okay. Number 2 in this one, I'm going to go Rupe Hintz, finally makes an impact on this series. And number 1, it's got to be Mikko Rantanen. We're living in the Mikko Rantanen era, apparently. And I like how Blake Wheeler actually summarized the Mikko Rantanen stuff, talking about how he did really ride shotgun on McKinnon and allowed him to kind of just get free. And it was a new challenge for him to be the number one guy that gets zeroed in on. And it was going to change how everyone looks at him, sort of thing, is where he was going for it. Mikko Rantanen continues to have an impressive series. What is it? 3-point games in 5 of the last 6 games.
Yep.
Mikko Rantanen's the difference in this one again, and he's the number one star in this game.
He's part of 13 of their 14 goals coming into today, whatever it was, or 12 of 13. Absolutely ridiculous. So, yeah, it's his playoff run right now. Absolutely, fucking huge problem. You know what? I'm gonna go with an Ehlers We Trust tonight for my 3 stars. I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna make one quick change to it. So at number 3, I'm gonna go with Mason Marchment, who had just an absolutely wonderful, impact on the game there. Great guy, absolutely love him. So Mason Marchment, you can get my only star for Dallas. Number 2, I'm going to give it to the refs. And then number 1, Blake Wheeler. Man, what a guy. I miss seeing him complaining about things all the time. So Blake Wheeler, you get my number 1 star.
If I didn't go refs number 3, Mike Friesen had my 3rd star with Thomas Harley was also pretty good. He's continued to impress me.
Legitimately, he's been good.
Carrying a big role with Heiskanen not there, and that continues to be on the back burner of this series, something to keep in mind. But hey, we appreciate you all for coming by, being a part of this show on this Sunday evening. We'll be back for a pivotal Game 4 in Dallas Tuesday night, and it's time for the Winnipeg Jets to respond. We got out the frustration with the reffing calls. We got out the frustration of what we just saw. It is time for the coaching staff to make adjustments. It's time for the stars of this team to figure it out and make this work and win a game on the road. And yes, T. Will, that means you too. You're a part of the show. I love you as well, even when you push my frickin' buttons with that nonsense. Thank you all for being here. We'll see you on Tuesday.
Y'all know the drill. Tell 2 friends to tell 2 friends. Rate, review, and remember, it's the landing strip for your Winnipeg Jets postgame.
Let's see it back.